Hey Eric,
Hey,
it's freezing here. As you can see, it's very cold.
yeah,
I'm shivering. It's micro shivers. You can barely tell.
it's
Um,
fitting
oh my God, look at that! I was gonna
for
say,
what we're
you
talking
remember
about today.
when that politician brought that snowball onto the Senate floor to as a senator, House of Representatives, to prove that climate change wasn't real. Um, if only McCready had been there.
To identify that this was not, in fact, a person and was.
That's right. To hit him with that flamethrower. I am by no means condoning violence against members of Congress. What's the thing, by the way?
What's the thing?
Yeah, I've never seen it.
It's Child's.
No, I don't. I don't think it's Child's. I don't think it
Oh, I
got him.
thought you've never seen it.
Oh,
Okay.
I mean,
Um, yeah, there are a couple of entertainment topics that I wanted to run by you, like your opinion on the animated Lord of the Rings movie that's coming out, and whether or not you'd seen any horror movies this year, with it being another insane year for horror, and whether or not you would agree that people are being really annoying about Moana 2 while they're lumping massive amounts of praise onto Wicked, and I don't understand it, and it seems
are,
paradoxical.
are people being annoying about Moana too?
Yeah, it's not negative reviews, but it's a combination of two things that I can sum up. This movie is just a cash grab sequel that just hits the beats of the first movie but doesn't have as catchy songs. That's one argument, which is wrong.
Oh,
But um well, I mean, the beats are there. Like, whatever, that's fine. The other one is you can clearly tell they originally intended to adapt this as a Disney Plus series and then just crammed it together. It's so
mm.
serialized. Now,
Is that another argument that is wrong, or is that a like
it is
that
also
that?
wrong
Okay,
because the
okay,
movie
okay.
does follow the same beats as the first movie, which was not intended to be a TV series that was then crammed into a movie.
I got you. Yeah, yeah.
It's so these two criticisms, both of which are, what this movie is not? The first movie. And you know what this movie is not? Like, it's trying to be a TV series and it's not that. Like, none of these opinions are like what the movie is, which it was very good. Um,
Oh,
there's a lot to it. I wouldn't say it's as like teary-eyed emotional as the first one, but I thought it was. I had like no expectations going in. I didn't know it was going to be a Disney Plus series or anything like that, and it's just, I don't know. It was kind of amazing. And
I
then,
are
yeah,
you moving on to another movie before I? Because I want to say a couple things about Moana too.
yeah, no,
Um, I had no idea it was coming. I haven't seen it, and to be honest, I haven't seen the first one, which is like almost 10 years old now, if I remember correctly. Um,
no, that's kind of a stickler thing. It was. Well, you say what you're going to say. I'm going to look this up.
all I was gonna say is, it came out of nowhere. I do try and insulate myself from as much advertising as possible, despite being an advertising expert in my day job. But like I had no idea it was coming, and I don't know if it got a lot of press or advertising or whatever. But I didn't see. I just heard, oh, Moana 2 is out. I was like, oh, okay. And I also canceled my Disney Plus subscription after the most recent yearly charge. So I still have it because they won't prorate it and give you a difference for your money back. They are just like, well, you have it for another year unless you go to customer service. But I do think it's important to understand that anything released by a major studio is a cash grab. I
Yeah,
mean, fundamentally, it is a cash grab. That's not to diminish the creative spark that started it, but
hmm,
a major studio, especially Disney, the evil empire, the soulless mouse, anything they release is to make money. So now that said, I did bring up a list when you said, have you seen any horror movies this year? I brought up a list, and I've got a lot of movies to list off that I want to see.
Yeah.
And I think looking at this list, I think there's one that I did see. So
All
go
right.
go go ahead and mention what you were going to mention next, and then I'll talk about the movies. Movie I've
Well,
seen
I was gonna say Moana's release date was November 2016.
8 years.
It's 8 years between sequels. That's a long time between sequels. Not long enough for the live action remake of Moana to be coming out next year, 1 year after the sequel.
Please, please, please stop. This. So I'm a huge fan of a video game called Bloodborne,
Oh
and I
yeah.
was going to reference it with the blood chains, because it reminds me of Bloodborne. Is why I got it. Bloodborne came out in 2015, I think, and people have been hungry for a remaster or a sequel or a remake or anything. And Sony released recently, they are releasing a remaster. You want to guess what it is?
Not Bloodborne.
Not Bloodborne, Horizon
Like,
Zero Dawn, which came out in 2017.
yeah.
But then they had the audacity to release it was 2015 for Bloodborne, confirmed. They had the audacity to release a 30-year anniversary for PlayStation. Little thing. It's like all these games show up and it says it's about whatever. One of them says it's about family, and I immediately said, and that's what's so powerful. But the last one in the video is it's about persistence, and it's over Bloodborne. And I was like, how dare you? You know what you're doing. You're like, yeah, keep asking for it. Yeah, keep trying to get that remaster, bud. But to release a live action Moana right after Moana 2, that feels very Horizon Zero Dawn to me. And that's
Yeah.
why I brought it up. It's like this movie is set, or this game is 7 years old, and you're like, wow, we better release a remaster.
Mhm.
We better release a Moana live action. I don't want this to become another rant video by Will, but calling these movies live action to me is a little misleading when, like the Lion King live action,
Oh yeah, that no.
it's just photorealistic computer generated images.
I'm gonna share my screen here. No, the picture's not quite big enough.
Yeah, that guy barely fits in there. Is it The Rock? Is that what you're
Yeah, it's The Rock in a full. I don't know if it's a muscle suit or if it's just like that's what the tattoos did to him.
I was going to say
Uh,
he's very muscular. He is not cartoonishly wide. That's him. And that is absolutely some kind of something that he's wearing.
yeah, it's happening.
I like his wig.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um,
I will say, by the way, in the year of our Lord 2024, in the age of 4K everything, like on streaming, you can see a lot of things in 4K. It has not been kind to the wig and cosmetic industry from earlier movies
mm,
where you can see the lace like in high definition. They never thought, like 40 years ago, they never thought that anyone would be watching it in incredible fidelity. So they were like, it'll be fine. But now we can see it.
yeah. So I don't know. It's I no hate on the people who are absolutely adoring Wicked. I'm glad people are enjoying that, but that is also like WB has a giant property and they're cashing in, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a similar familiar story about a girl who is discriminated against and learns to rise above and go against the system. And it's just really weird for people to bash on one project that has this slight slant towards a real world problem of disparate diminishing race of people coming together, and then look at like Wicked and be like, there was a screenshot I saw of someone being like, this is the greatest shot in cinema history, like, talking about it's it's fine for
It's
people to
it's
be
not
happy with what they're happy with.
it's not the shot of the man walking with the candle in nostalgia. It's not Patrick Bateman with "This Is Not an Exit" behind him. It's Moana
No,
or
Wicked.
Wicked.
Yeah.
Sorry, I misunderstood. It's Wicked.
And who knows, maybe.
in all fairness, I haven't seen it, so
Right.
maybe it is the best shot in all time. I don't know.
You know. So,
I'm picking up that you maybe don't agree.
um, I saw the movie. I thought it was something that aggressively chose spectacle and theatricality over actually digging into the themes that it brings up and touches on.
Mm,
But that doesn't make that a bad enjoyable experience that then still does touch upon some very emotional like foundational things like the concept that a person in power will create a scapegoat in order to create a
mm,
system of control where people are doing that. I mean, in the movie they make that the animals because animals in this land used to be sentient creatures like the cowardly lion who can talk and communicate,
right.
and they're being wrangled suddenly into cages and forced to be like dehumanized and become animals like we know them.
Hmm.
And that is all you know. That's all you know.
Oh, all right.
You learn who's doing it and you're like, okay, but you don't learn why. You don't learn what the unrest is in the people. I mean, everyone in Oz and everywhere is just super singing and happy to be alive. There's no unrest that needs to be kept in control. It's
I don't know. I kind of feel like that's thematically appropriate given the attempt at real world parallels and how if a real world analog, let's say the American political right, were to be attempting to dehumanize another group without any real unrest.
eh, yeah,
Um,
again, it's there. The stuff is there to chew on. That's the fair thing I'll say about the movie. But it's funny to have this like really bright spot and everyone flip out over this after a year that has been so soaked in horror.
mm.
Like,
Yeah, you mentioned earlier the movies that came out this year, whether I had seen, and there's so many I want to see, and I didn't realize there were this many potentially good horror movies that came out this year.
yep, I got a list pulled up. I'm gonna run through the ones that I've seen, and I'm curious, what's the one you've seen?
I don't want to tell you until you get to it because you're almost certainly going to talk to it, and I do have a lot of thoughts on it. So even though it's the only one that I've seen, I think it's got a lot of meat to chew on, and that is of course Afraid with AI in the
Yeah, of
title.
course,
No,
obviously.
no, I'm joking. It's not that.
So there's a lot more than this. I have not seen all of the ones that I want to see even, but there was A Quiet Place Day One,
Hmm.
shockingly good. Abigail, which was an absolute blast and is one of my favorite horror movies of the year. Do you know what that is?
I don't.
It's a movie that got spoiled in the trailer, and if you can be unspoiled
Oh,
on it
yeah,
and
yeah,
not,
yeah.
oh, you know what it is.
And I know, yeah, the little girl with the tutu, and yeah, it
Okay.
is. It's been spoiled for me. Yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's not that shocking. You see that poster of her with the blood creeping up her dress. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I have a feeling I know where this is going.
Again, all of the marketing just like waste the opportunity that it could just be there is a beast in the house that they got locked in while they're trying to, wait out the ransom for this girl. And there is plenty of footage in the movie that would play to that in a trailer, and
Hmm.
instead,
They're
no,
like, oh
like,
yeah, yeah, it's this.
yeah,
It's I think that studios are apprehensive about not showing their full hand. I think the last time, and I think in terms of video games, so like the last time, in my opinion, something big like that happened was Metal Gear Solid 2, where every trailer showed footage of Solid Snake creeping around industrial areas.
mm,
Turns out that's all in the first couple hours of the game. And
yeah.
then he dies, and the rest of the game you play as someone else. Um, I think the last time I remember something like this in film is Star Trek Into Darkness with It's Not Khan. It's not Khan. Stop saying it's Khan. Okay,
It's
fine.
John.
I
Remember that they
also,
released clips from the movies and they had dubbed them calling the
no,
guy
I didn't
John.
see that. Oh my God,
Yeah.
gross. I also like the idea that someone named Khan Noonien Singh is played by Benedict Cumberbatch. Which, don't get me wrong, having a Hispanic guy play an Indian or South Asian person is. But Benedict Cumberbatch is even further removed.
Yeah. Um.
Wonder
So.
Bread. Sorry.
uh.
I'm so sorry. Quick aside. If you've never heard Benedict Cumberbatch say the word penguin, I'm going to need you to
Oh
do
yeah.
that
No.
later.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is Graham Norton, Penguin, all that.
Penguins.
So afraid-eyed. I did not. I did not bother to see.
I did not deign to see that one. No.
Alien Romulus was fantastic, except I abhor what they did with bringing back Ian Holm from the dead. Um, uh,
You got to pay with your wallet or vote with your wallet. That's what I always say. If there's something you don't like, don't spend money on it. But I understand with a movie, you don't know that until you've spent your money. So
yeah, I Apartment 7A is like a prequel to Rosemary's Baby. I haven't seen that, and I want to see that. Um, let's see. Beetlejuice was one of the weirdest and most enjoyable
Oh,
like things.
I didn't realize I considered that a comedy, so I didn't realize that was going to be on this list. I really liked it,
Hmm.
but it did very much feel like they had a lot of ideas for a sequel, and they were just like, "We're just put all the ideas we had into one movie."
Yeah, and
And
they barely connect them. Barely.
barely, which, in all fairness, is very Beetlejuice to
Yeah.
just be like, "Whatever, we're doing this now." Yeah, she got bit by snakes. That's it. Moving on. Although I will say real quick, I take it you don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about Beetlejuice.
Right. That's okay.
I will just interject. Everything about the world of the dead or whatever that's called, the afterlife, is so good.
Yeah.
Everything about the afterlife is so good, and it should have been a neo-noir detective movie with Willem Dafoe
Yeah.
reluctantly bringing in Beetlejuice as a partner to figure out what's going on with something. That's what that movie should have been.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything except the Soul Train. Like, come on.
I mean that it was funny.
You can't have Tim Burton's track record of talking about how black people just don't fit my aesthetic.
Oh right.
And then,
yeah. I forgot about that.
Um,
which could be like an on the nose rebuttal to people's criticism of that, is to be like, well, look, I put a whole bunch of people
and I made them faceless and dance.
And I made sure to have the boomerist reference that I could in Soul Train.
But no, like I 100% agree. And I thought one of the most fascinating details to me that was like, okay, this movie was either carelessly put together or extremely carefully, passionately made. And one of them is Willem Dafoe. When he gets frozen, you can tell, like in the last second, he's standing there. You can tell that in just one shot where he's on the side of the frame, like here, and something is actually in focus behind him, they made a fully modeled Willem Dafoe figure.
I think
instead of just having him stand still for like a 3-second shot.
I gotta say, I still love it.
It's amazing.
There's an up close shot, I think, of that fake Willem Dafoe, and I was like, oh my god, I love it because I think, it's not that taxing to have someone stand stock still, but anytime something is not done with CG and they build something, I love it.
Yeah, it was great. It was like
that's a hint for the thing later.
Yeah. So Cuckoo.
Oh, I don't know about Cuckoo.
Cuckoo is spectacular. Just go into it dark. It's about a girl who goes to live with her dad because she can't live with her mom anymore, and she's with her stepmom. And the dad and stepmom have a child that was born at this reservation, like this area that what's the actor's name? He's been in a few things this year. He's been in Abigail, Kong Skull Island. He played the Beast in the Beauty and the Beast remake. His name
Ron
Perlman. Yeah.
What are we talking about? Cuckoo?
Dan Stevens. Yes.
Oh yeah. I would never have gotten that.
He plays this eccentric almost could have been annoying in the wrong movie character that is like a scientist who's really passionate. The kind of character who's like, I have no humanity because I care more about this animal in the wilderness than I care about the consequences of human
Hmm.
beings. You know,
Okay.
like yes, of course, the animal must survive, like at what cost? And it just has so many twists and turns and is so freaky and creepy, and it's so good. Um, and then you have goodness gracious.
A lot.
A lot. Uh, don't move. I
Could make
can't.
jokes about Daddy's head, but I won't.
Oh, they're
Uh,
putting everything in here that has a monster in it.
oh yeah,
I haven't
Hellboy. I
seen The
haven't
Crooked
seen.
Man. Hellboy.
Yeah,
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 no.
yeah. I haven't seen it. I would like to because Hey, you remember that there was a movie with David Harbour as Hellboy that nobody watched
Yeah, I just watched it a week ago.
a week ago? Oh my
Yeah,
god, two
that
years
movie
after it
was
came out or whatever.
insane. That movie was
Oh
as
yeah.
it was under 2 hours and it was three movies worth of content. It was nonstop, and then the movie ended like 12 times. Like like they beat the main bad guy, then they went on this like one shot take extreme elaborate action sequence and end up finding Sapien, but his first name's not Abe in this. And then there's like another mid-credit scene that sets up something, then there's a full post-credit scene that sets up something. It was insane.
Hey,
Uh
did you know that this most recent one, The Crooked Man, had a $20 million budget and had a box office take of $2 million?
oh, that's horrifying.
That hurts.
Yeah. Oh gosh, you'd think go cheap, you'd win regardless, but I want to watch it. I've heard that he's the best on-screen Hellboy, even though they really should have just given him contacts. Like like come on. I didn't see Imaginary. I'm partway through I Saw the TV Glow. It is fascinating and I have no idea where it's going, so I'm not going to start
Right.
explaining it.
I haven't.
Immaculate
Oh, I haven't seen it. I really want to. That's it.
Immaculate is a movie that came out a week before The First Omen. And both of them are about a nun who ends up with like a creepy baby conception.
Uh
Um, so it's interesting. A lot of people really like Immaculate. A lot of people really like The First Omen too, but I thought it was atrocious. Um,
oh.
I like the First Omen. It's really weird because you can tell that the writers were just trying to make like a prequel movie. They just hit the beats and they did like
Mm,
whatever. But then the director and the cast were so extremely passionate about it that everything you're looking at is incredibly well crafted. And then it
okay.
was edited and scored like garbage. So
Okay.
like everything you
Well,
look
it's a
at,
roller coaster.
yeah, everything you look at in that movie is like really, really good. And sometimes the aesthetic of a movie not made in this time period in like a great way. And then it's just so like bizarrely on the nose and just like weird and I don't know. Um in a violent nature, I want to see so bad I could pee, but I haven't seen it.
Bathroom's probably nearby. I mean, you just.
It's What's Inside is a movie that you have to go into blind. Don't look at it. Don't look at the preview. When you go on Netflix and it starts to show you like an automatic preview of what's going
Oh,
on, click it as quickly as possible to get past it.
I have those turned off, so that's not a problem.
You can turn those off.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I am 90% sure. I'm 80% sure you can turn those off.
Okay. Yeah,
Well, you
70%.
were
It was
just
never any
staring. You were
higher.
just staring at me, so I'm like, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, a bunch of friends get together. An older creepy friend comes and brings along a device, and that's all you need to
A
know.
device. Okay, I like a
Yep.
good device. Let me put it on my list. It's what's inside that counts, my friend. It's not the peel, it's the nana. Bonus points if anyone knows what that's from.
While you're putting that down, Lisa Frankenstein is one of my favorite movies of the year. Um, uh,
That's a great name.
Catherine Newton and Cole Sprouse are both fantastic.
Cole
Um,
Sprouse.
yeah, this is written by Diablo Cody, who wrote Jennifer's Body, and it's directed by
Lisa
Zelda Williams, uh,
Frank.
Robin
Robin
Williams'
Williams'
daughter.
daughter.
And Carla Gugino is amazing. Like every performance in this is outstanding, and the way that the character is just morally in the wrong multiple times is just so enjoyable. And the climax of the movie is a literal climax, and I love, I adore the movie. Like it goes in so many fun ways. Long Legs is not as good as everyone makes it out to be, in my opinion. This is the movie where Nicolas Cage plays it. And I'll tell you, for the first half of the movie, I was genuinely creeped out to the point that I was glad I didn't see it alone. Like, it was really, really getting under my skin. But after a while, it does the thing where you've seen the person's face too much and they've kind of revealed too much. And then it gets a little weird with the supernatural elements. And ultimately I just don't think it like stuck the landing.
We've made it to the movie I've seen this year.
Long Legs.
I love, love, love Long Legs 75% of the time. 75% of that movie is one of the best horror movies I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Is that the first 75%?
Everything to do with Nicolas Cage is bad. Everything to do with Nicolas Cage is bad. Everything to do with Nicolas Cage is bad.
See, to me,
The only good thing with Nicolas Cage in that movie is when he goes to that shop and freaks out that girl.
I mean, to me, the best parts of Nicolas Cage in the movie are when he is being made mysterious. When he starts to sing and like yell, like yeah, it to me it kind of washes away a little bit of the creep factor.
I
But
can't even remember what me, yeah, like all of that. Yeah, that's good stuff where
and
you can
then
only see like that much of
yeah,
him.
and then right when he moves, it cuts away. Right when you're about to see his face. Oh my gosh, that
That's
got
creepy.
me. Yeah.
But then when he's singing and everything, okay, there's one more thing I don't like, and that is the ending, which, given the character and given what she knows and given how everything works, she would not do what she does at all at the end of that movie.
Also, why is she what she is? Wouldn't it be so much easier in their life if they had just dissuaded her from joining the FBI?
I mean, yeah.
That's kind of a glaring issue that I have.
Yeah, you're not
Uh,
wrong.
so, yeah, like I said, just like some of the stuff in there is like top tier horror. It's great.
Oh,
But
yeah, so everything she does with her partner, which I guess is her boss slash her partner or whatever, everything to do with that is amazing.
yeah.
Like as they investigate, and there's all those wide shots where you're like something is going to happen and then it doesn't. Love that stuff.
And
Can't get enough of
there's
it.
reward on rewatches of that I want to get into. I'm going to rewatch it because Tamia has not seen it. Um,
Oh,
and there's like details that are not necessarily creepy details that like flavor like having presidential candidates of the time on the walls and having
yeah,
little
yeah.
things in the background. Like I
Well, yeah,
yeah,
they work for the FBI, and so the president of the United States is always on the wall.
yeah. So yeah, I definitely recommend someone watching Long Legs hands down. But don't expect it to be the way everyone says it's like the greatest thing ever.
Same. I had the same problem with Ex Machina, in like the end doesn't
Yeah,
make any sense.
that's right. I remember that. Oh man, if we could talk about Civil War, whenever you see that, because you know
Oh, the
the
same director.
same director, and he quit directing because of the making of this movie.
Oh my god. Oh, period. Like he
Yeah,
didn't just quit the movie. He was like, I am done with this
I
industry.
am
This.
done. No, not with the industry because he still wants to write and do whatever. But Alex Garland says he's retired
Oh
from
my god.
being a director of movies, and Civil War is so worth it. It's so good.
Mm,
But back to horror, you have Maxine. Dude gets his balls stomped on camera. It's great.
nice. Cool. Love
Um,
it.
uh, Night Bitch, I haven't seen, but I want to see. Monster Summer, I missed it. Mel Gibson is in it, so I got like feelings. But it seems like a kind of a kids on bikes like fun
Hmm.
kid friendly kind of horror movie, and I'm curious about that. Night Swim, which kicked off the year. I We have this joke running on the This Week at the Movies podcast that I run with Matt Fox, that he had to watch Night Swim and I didn't, and that has tainted the whole year. That has like distorted his ability to like his bar was set at Night Swim. So sometimes he likes movies more or less because his heart was darkened by having to sit through the movie.
Oh,
Um,
oh, I've heard. This is the movie that where nothing happens, right?
yes,
And that's
yes.
like that is not a joke. Like it's you keep thinking something horror is going to happen, and then nothing happens. Is this
Mhm.
that movie?
Yeah. Yeah, that's that one and Imaginary, where I think Blumhouse heard about If and were like, we should make an imaginary friend movie, and they just came up with whatever they came up with. A lot of people are criticizing Blumhouse projects that are churning out with being just like bloodless, tensiony, like
Hmm.
like no payoff for anything, so it really quickly wears off being afraid of anything and just not having a lot of teeth. Um,
You can do that well, but if you don't do it well, nothing happens.
yeah. Um, I've heard good things about Oddity, but I haven't gotten to see it. That's Irish. I'm skipping Nosferatu because that's the last one I want to talk about because it's the last big movie coming out of the year.
Hmm.
Salem's Lot was awesome.
Really?
Salem's Lot was awesome, and everybody kind of like skipped over and doesn't like it. And I get it. I get that the movie took a book that couldn't even be fit into a 3 hour TV miniseries, added stuff that wasn't in the book, and crammed it down into 2 hours. The movie never stops enough that like complete characters and plot lines are just completely just forgotten about. But it's another situation where everything that is there on screen is so entertaining and so worthwhile to me that that movie like is absolutely worth the ride. And it's streaming. It's not like you have to pay to rent it on Amazon or something
Hmm.
like that. Like it's if you already have an HBO Max subscription so you can watch Dune Part 1 and Part 2, then you can just watch this on the side. It's so good. Like it's so much fun.
All
Um
I care about is Father Callahan. Is Father Callahan done justice in this movie?
I can't compare him obviously to source materials because I haven't caught up in the Dark Tower, and but he is an interesting character, and
Okay.
not no crazy twists and turns happen, but like yeah, I would say yeah. Um, they say Shelby Oaks. That's the big one that Chris Stuckman is coming out with because it premiered at a festival this year, but it's not coming out until next year. But it got a release from Neon, so I'm really hyped about that for next year. Um, let's see. Smile 2. I don't understand the hype for Smile 2. Yes, there are scenes that were really well directed, long takes that are really well crafted and choreographed with many people and whatnot, but I cannot get behind the mythology and the creatures in Smile movies because at a certain point there are no rules anymore. The creature can just rip away your agency, and everything you're seeing in the movie is fake and being created by the creature with no rhyme or reason.
Oh, okay.
So at a certain point in Smile 2, there is like a tiniest hint of a sign that a girl's getting like an arm crammed all the way down her mouth, and everything goes dark. And from that point forward,
Nothing's real.
absolutely nothing is real till the very final moments of the movie when it snaps her back to reality to show her where she's actually at so the creature can do what it wants to do.
Okay.
It's it's
I've
it's very
seen I've seen the monster in memes. That's
yeah.
that's all I
I
know about
also
this.
I it's one of those things where they shouldn't light that monster well and make it a big deal because it's not like
Well, I don't know. It is
it's creepy. It's well
yeah.
designed, but it's not like in the first movie. I really, really enjoyed the monster because of the way it like kind of can't contain itself within the illusions and the fiction that it's trying to create. And so it's like bigger and split and distorted and wide open, but you never
Hmm.
really get a true sense of what that creature is behind it. And I'm pretty sure you do in this one. Um, Speak No Evil, both of those movies piss me off. And I can't get
Oh,
into a huge thing because we don't have enough time today to talk about it. But I would love to do another episode about both the Danish and the American Speak No Evil.
speak no evil.
It's the one where James McAvoy is a bad guy.
Cool. Split.
Yeah, except he's like a muscle man and he's like, well, the premise of both movies
So
is that
split.
yeah, the premise. Yes, that's right. I forgot the beast and all that. The premise of both movies is that this couple meets this eccentric couple on holiday and brings their child, and because the couple has a mute child that they become friends with, and they go to this strange couple's home that's out in like the middle of nowhere, and they're too polite to stop the people from becoming increasingly creepier and increasingly boundary crossing, right?
Okay. Is this a comedy like
No.
horror?
No, it is supposed to be satirical on the nature of people to just be too polite and let people abuse them. But the original movie crosses the line to where no one would act the way they're acting, so you're just being forced for someone to be like, "Hey, look at me burn this Lego I own." Like there's a little more substance to what's happening at a certain point than that. It's like, okay, fine. Great. You made these people act like they're dying. Like, great. Good for you. And then the American one, which tries to take that like dystopian, like not dystopian, what's the word?
I don't know.
Not nihilistic ending and tries to turn it into like an American, like we're gonna fight the bad guys and win thing.
Okay.
But that completely undercuts the point of you let us because the Americans are constantly checking and challenging the people. That's the big line in both versions of the movies. Why are you doing this to us? Because you let us. In the first movie, the line makes sense. In the second movie, it's like right after they tried to shoot someone and they're like, you let us do this. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like,
Well, that's I think, again, we don't have a lot of time, but we do. Americans have a problem thinking that we're like the people in the American one when really we're like the ones in the Danish one.
nobody is
We,
like the ones in the Danish one. It's so close. It pisses me off so much because it's so close to being a good point. And there's an
again,
opportunity. Yeah.
go on.
No, you go ahead.
We wouldn't have the president elect that we have now if people would stop their friends and be like, that's weird. You shouldn't say stuff like that. If people would be honest with their friends and not just be afraid to say things and be like, that's wrong. You can't say things like that. Here's why.
Well, see that okay, we definitely need to do an episode about both Speak No Evils and I need you to watch them for homework
Okay,
because
I'll
because
I'll watch them.
what you're saying has just riled me up so much on a genius way of looking at things because that is what happens in the American one. In the American one, we like to think that we can change the world by step putting our foot forward and doing something and not being bystanders that let bad things happen.
Yeah,
But in my opinion, it's farther in the truth. The more you tell someone, hey, what you did is wrong, the more they get quiet and become who they are in secret. And and that
maybe.
that is a direction they could have taken the American version and they didn't. And they just botched this thing. The movies are only 2 years apart. The
Mm.
American remake is only 2 years different from the Danish one. And it's just oh, it's so a thing. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna move on from
Real quick, I do
yeah.
want to say also the other thing is Americans think they're the couple that's freaking out when really they are the ones doing all the awful morally reprehensible things and they don't understand that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So all right,
Not us though.
stream 2
Stree?
size Tarot. I didn't bother to watch Tarot. There's two Tarots that came out this year. One of them is Korean. Terrifier 3 did not see, but I want to see. The Crow. Um,
What was that? Did you spit? What?
yes, I did. The Crow,
Spit on your grave.
the director of The Crow made me so angry that in one movie he managed to make me detest him as much as I am annoyed with David Gordon Green, which took Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends, and The Exorcist for me to get there.
Oh my god. I still haven't seen Halloween Ends, but if it's as bad as Halloween Kills.
No, it's not. It's actually a great movie.
Oh,
It's
all right.
just it's just an abhorrently incredibly terrible ending to that trilogy, which is not a trilogy.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
end of
okay.
Halloween, what happens at the very end of Halloween Kills?
They think they've killed him, but no, he kills Kitty from Arrested Development.
Yes, he kills Kitty from Arrested Development. That's all she's known for. So,
Watch your back. You watch your back, Michael. I
so
will.
in this version, Laurie Strode is someone who the other sequels didn't exist. So you don't have the arc of her trying to move on like in Halloween H2O and all that kind of stuff, right? You don't have Laurie Strode. You have Laurie Strode, the character whose friend died when she was a teenager. So she became a reclusive, like almost borderline abusive, like bad mom who lived her whole life waiting for the shape to come back and spent 40 years ready for revenge. How does that end in one night? Her fear comes true and he kills her daughter. So what does she do? She decides it's time to move on.
Oh,
and in the beginning of
I see.
and in the beginning of Halloween Ends, she's trying to like have a home life still in Haddonfield with Judy Greer's daughter, Allison.
Oh, that's her name. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, I'm trying to bake pumpkin pie. Oh, I just can't seem to get my things together. And everyone in the town is blaming her for bringing Michael Myers into the town. It absolutely makes no sense. But the movie, in and of itself, as the story about a kid who, the year after the events of 2018's night, accidentally killed a child he was babysitting for.
Yeah.
He is like looked at as this like outsider character and demonized by a lot of people, and he becomes vulnerable to the evil that is within Michael Myers, and it's a story of this person potentially becoming infected by the same kind of evil and becoming something. So it's about that. It has nothing to do with Kills or 2018. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The Exorcism, I did not see. I want to see the first
Of Emily
one
Rose?
first. No, this is the other
Oh.
Russell Crowe one. They made a sequel to The Exorcist.
Oh, yeah.
The First Omen, talked about it. The Mummy Murders. What? Okay, that even doesn't have a link to highlight to show me a poster. The Strangers Chapter 1, directed by Rennie Harlan. Everybody didn't like it. I haven't seen it. The Substance was phenomenal.
It's on my list. I would love to see it. Everybody has told me that they didn't walk out of the theater, but multiple times they got to a scene and internally were like, yeah, I see why people walked out.
Yeah. So yeah, the Watchers, Trap, that's the M. Night Shyamalan's daughter and M. Night Shyamalan's respectively.
Right. Yeah.
I haven't seen his daughter's one. I saw Trap. It was fun. And Y2K comes out this weekend that we're recording this, which seems like a schlocky horror movie about that. And that seems kind of fun. Nosferatu.
I really want to see
I'm looking
that.
forward to the most. I have been mixed to down on Robert Eggers forever. The Witch was great.
Yeah.
The Lighthouse, I was really annoyed that I heard that they intentionally removed things from the script and the edit that would allow there to be any sort of explanation or solid narrative to the movie, so that it would remain open to people getting out of it what they want to. And I'm like, okay, great. Maybe I'm just not creative enough to watch your movie. Okay.
What about The Northman?
The Northman, I was a slog to me. I appreciate the artistry of it, but it took me two separate viewings to make it through that movie, and it was just a slog.
You know why?
Why?
Feel free to cut this. You know why? Because you're not racist enough.
Oh,
Do you
oh,
remember that the whole like right wing push for the Northman and how it was like, finally, there's no minorities in this movie. Finally, it's all white people like middle aged Scandinavia would have been. I got news for all those people. Like, people of color were, yes, centrally in their original nations and continents, but there were diasporas forever throughout history.
I
There have been black people in Europe for centuries.
accidentally scrolled on my phone to the wrong video saying I'm disproving the worst review of the Batman. And I was like, "Oh, interesting. I want to hear someone thought the Batman was negative." It was Ben Shapiro that
Oh.
was criticizing. And so I had to listen for like until I could like consciously cut it off to Ben Shapiro's take on the Batman, and he's just so dismally unintelligent. I I I can't. Like, this movie hates Batman because he is supposed to turn violence on those who would be violent. And this movie says that Batman just has to be someone who lights a beacon and helps children get out of the mud. And he's not supposed to be violent. And I'm like, what?
I got to be honest with you. That's not my favorite Ben Shapiro impression. It's better than listening to Ben Shapiro though.
Yeah. It was such a useless video because it's like, yeah, he's an idiot. He's like, the only, of course, this isn't the important part, but of course, Hollywood's doing its woke thing where the only characters that in there are morally good are Catwoman and Gordon and the mayor, and they're all minorities, and all the white people are bad guys. And I'm like,
So history.
everyone in Gotham is corrupt. Just because, just you like also Batman is the protagonist and Alfred is a good morally good. Like it just he takes so many leaps to try and justify like the way that I see the world has to be true. So I have to find the ways that the way I see the world is true. It's so Nosferatu. Bill Skarsgård is amazing, and I'm really excited to see what he does. Lily Rose Depp is getting outstanding reviews, so I'm really excited to see her do something other than yoga hosers. Um, I have absolutely adored um um
Take your time.
someone so much that I forgot their name.
Yeah, I adored them. Who are they?
Nicholas Holt.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yes, who has
Oh,
this
is he the main character?
he's like the guy who goes to see Count
Yeah,
Orlok and
yeah,
comes
whose
back in the
name escapes me.
it's not Jonathan Harker, I don't think, in the original in Nosferatu, but that's the character in Dracula. That's
Oh,
like
yeah.
the thing.
That's Keanu Reeves in his best role.
Yes. So hands down. Um
I'm going to the castle.
Bloody wolves. Um
Uh-huh. So, if you have more to say about Nosferatu, go ahead.
just
Sorry.
Nicholas Holt is fantastic, and he's getting increasingly more effective roles where he gets to show how amazing he is. If you haven't seen The Menu, it's one of like the best
Mm.
movies that came from 2022. Like he, he's just been really into monster movies like Jack the Giant Slayer, playing Beast from X-Men. He was Renfield in that movie where Nicolas
Oh, yeah.
Cage played Dracula. That was just last year, and now this year he's in Nosferatu. I don't know what his thing is about creature features, but he's like all over it.
He was in. Did you mention Mad Max?
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
sorry.
I didn't mention Mad Max, but yeah,
Well,
he's
because
a
he
war
wasn't a
boy.
creature, I guess he was the war boy in that. Yeah, he
Yeah,
was amazing in Mad Max.
he's Nicholas Holt is spectacular, and I look forward to any time he's going to be in a movie. But but yeah, no, that's the horror year that we've had. So like really waiting for that final stamp, and like it's crazy. I have this running theory that as the superhero blockbuster and the $100 million formula of tentpole blockbusters finally comes to its fireworks display of an end,
Hmm.
the formula that is going to be the most popcorn friendly is going to be horror. And I think after westerns to adult movie star dramas and comedies to superhero movies, I think we're going to move into an era of mainstream acceptance of horror, because I think that's going to be the way for studios to. I mean, literally, what happened with Terrifier 3 is a landmark. That is a movie that is the one of the highest grossing, because of its tiny budget and its massive take. It won like some record for how much money it made in its first weekend,
Hmm.
and is not rated by the MPAA.
Oh, I didn't realize.
And so now studios are thinking, hey, there's at least one piece of proof out there that we don't necessarily need to fit into the demographic of an R to guarantee that we're going to get a certain return on our money, or a PG-13, if we
Hmm.
make horror that can be made cheaply. And
Interesting.
I've been saying this now for like a year ish, and now I'm just like I'm slowly waiting for it, because we had like a really big 2022 year in horror. Even though the pandemic was in 2020, you had big hits like Host, and like things that creeped out that people were into. And I don't know how 2025 will be, but I'm betting 2026 is going to be another big horror year. I'm really curious to see that population grow. And because of that, I wanted to talk about some of our favorite horror movies and run those through critics' critique, because infamously, The Thing came out a couple weeks after E.T.
Right.
And it's actually a really inspiring story about the world, that they could empathize so much with this fictional character E.T. that they were like, we're not into aliens being bad guys right now.
Sentiment around aliens was at an all-time high, and then just a couple weeks later, it's like, but what if aliens were the worst menace imaginable? Well, we don't feel that way right now.
Yeah. Yep. So, do you have anything you want to say before we just do the breakdown for The Thing?
The Thing? Uh, no, I have a lot of horror movies I need to see. I still haven't seen Talk to Me, which I think was last year.
Yeah,
Um,
I finally saw that.
that's on my
I
lists.
have issues with Talk to Me.
Do you?
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about them now, but yeah.
Oh, okay. I've got a lot of movies I've added to my list. In a Violent Nature is on there, but then there's a lot of movies that I've added recently that have come out a long time ago, like Shattered Glass, The Cell, Thelma and Louise, all these movies that I've never seen. Creature from the Black Lagoon, um, Mad God. Did you see Mad God?
No.
I think you would find Mad God very interesting. I haven't seen it, but I think it's all claymation or stop motion rather, um, made over the course of a number of years. I think
Hmm.
2021 stop motion experimental horror film
Yeah.
produced over 30 years. Like Boyhood. Boyhood took 10 years to make. Did you know that?
Yeah.
That means it's good. But no, all I really want to say is that I think it's important. Segue. I think it's important
I
that
do want to see that movie you were just talking about, though. I know I'm distracted because I'm looking up the scores and stuff. Did you know The Thing does not have a cinema score? The 1980s one?
cinema score, really
Yeah, no.
interesting. I did not know that. By the way, to me, there is only one The Thing. And I do take umbrage when people say it's a remake of another movie because not really. The Thing from Another World, it's like a plant monster
Yeah.
and you have to use electricity to kill it. And it's a
Yeah.
significant deviation from the short story it's adapted from.
Hmm.
So I do not consider The Thing to be a remake. Nor do I consider 2011's The Thing to exist. So, you know, but so The Thing,
The
I think
Thing.
I think it's important to note that we have had mixed reviews of a number of movies that we've talked about so far, and now we're talking about The Thing.
Yeah.
And is The Thing the My favorite horror movie? Maybe, maybe not. Do I consider it probably the best horror movie? Probably.
Hmm.
It it is so airtight. It is so well produced. It is so simple, to be honest. Like, it's you have that question of who's the thing and everything, but you've got a bunch of dudes. You've got a place where no one can get to them when something goes wrong, and something goes wrong.
Hmm.
And then you have a score by Ennio Morricone for some reason, but it works so well. Every time I hear that, boom,
Boom.
boom, 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 it's just so. And then, like, it's just so subdued.
Yeah.
And then I want to say, like, during the climax, it's not like a big horns and loud strings. They're like plucking on violins. And so it's like like this really unnerving, jangling string plucking.
Hmm.
And so it's not like this big, loud thing. It's just like, oh, like I'm seeing one of the grossest things I've ever seen in my life. And the music is so unnerving. And then it ends on one of the best cliffhangers in film history. By the way, I feel free to disagree with me on this, Eric, but I don't, there's going to be spoilers,
Yeah.
right? Like,
I hope
okay,
so.
cool. So if you haven't seen The Thing, go do that right now and come back.
Yeah. It's
Because
cold.
it's, you see this? I'm worried for my life right now. This is Antarctica where trees grow.
That's not a tree behind him.
Oh my God. That's an excellent point. Would it infect and replicate itself as plants if there were any around?
They're living creatures. If it was
They are.
advantageous, I think it would.
I think you're right.
Hmm.
It's just a mimic, right?
Basically,
Yeah.
roll initiative. Anyways,
Throw
yeah, so let me throw some stats at you real quick. I'm gonna do this a
me
little
some
bit quicker
stats.
than normal. So the thing, Rotten Tomatoes, 85%. There's no cinema score, so I don't know what's up with that. Maybe it predates cinema score. I thought we had hit like an older movie that had, I don't know. Um, out of 85 reviews, what just happened?
Your computer's the thing. It's not there.
I'd like you to see what just happened to me. Uh, Tomato meter 85%, popcorn meter 92%. So users, yes. Okay. Click
Yeah.
this.
Uh, well, okay. So click all critics.
Okay.
So I don't know what a top
Top
critic is.
critics.
Maybe that's top critics, and then all critics includes bottom critics too.
Let's read some of the 14 top critic reviews. Such
So
such a pity. John Carpenter is too gifted a movie maker to let nauseating special effects take over his biggest film. But that's what happened in The Thing. His biggest film? What?
maybe biggest in production, like
No, strongly
budget.
disagree. Big Trouble in Little China. They
Oh
Live.
yeah.
Like, has this person seen a John Carpenter movie before?
Dude, Big Trouble in Little China is such a good movie.
Yes, it is. Carpenter's direction is slow, dark, and stately. He seems to be aiming for an enveloping, novelistic kind of effect, but all he gets is heaviness. What does that mean?
That is the one of the most nothing burger reviews I think I've ever read.
Russell's sub Eastwood heroics hardly compensate for the absence of all characterization? What?
Okay, so
You learn an immense amount about his character in the first scene that he's in, where he dumps alcohol into a computer because he can't win at chess. Like,
that's the whole point of his character right there. Is if he can't win, he'll blow it up. And that's what happens in by the end of the movie. Also, I will say this.
this
McCready is not really the protagonist until like halfway through the movie. So I think it's unfair to be like, there's not enough characterization. It's because you have this ensemble cast. Maybe not ensemble, but oh, did you see something awful?
Roger Ebert from 2004. because this material has been done before and better, especially in the original The Thing and Alien, there's no need to see this version.
All right, Raj, look, I'm going to cut you some slack because you've been dead for a decade, but you're wrong. Did you know that his review of Scott Pilgrim versus the World was, I haven't seen Scott Pilgrim versus the World and I'm not going to, and I'll still sleep at night. He's a very good critic of movies, I think, and he's very good at figuring things out. Don't know what the deal is there. I will say that could just be from RogerEbert.com,
It could be.
and somebody else watched it and did that. I will say this in defense of those negative reviews, it is very gore focused. It is very body horror focused, but it, in my opinion, at no point diminishes from the point of the movie, which is you cannot trust anyone because they could be the thing at any time. So, yes,
Yeah.
there are very gory effects, but also those are like what's the right word? Like a centerpiece, like a showcase. They're most of the movie, those effects are not on screen. Most of the movie is tense conversation about what's going on, and then suddenly there's a horror, like body horror thing going on. They deal with it, and then it's back to tense conversation.
And extremely imaginatively crafted, keep you guessing, make you confused, make you curious explosion of special effects. And
Yeah.
like, anyways, Rotten Tomatoes won't let me look at anything else without enabling ads, so I'm gonna have to leave it there. So the full critics thing was 82%. I don't know what that actual average rating was.
Sure.
And then the audience was much higher, is in the 90s. The Metacritic is also 57 for 13 critic reviews, and 8.7 universal acclaim for user ratings.
So I wonder if, like, of those critic reviews, are those when the movie came out, or are those?
So I mean, these websites weren't a thing when the movie came out, but they do pull sources from printed reviews and things, and so for example, let me find one from the Washington Post on 25th of June 1982. John Carpenter's remake of The Thing is a wretched excess. It's
not a remake.
It's not that originals are too sacred to be reinterpreted. They're period pieces that would have to be tinkered with to appear contemporary. They've simply been unlucky with their tinkerers, who haven't spruced up the pretext without laying waste to the accompanying human interest, wit, and thematic suggestiveness.
Whatever. Bite me.
Oh,
hey, go on.
New York Times, The Thing is too phony looking to be disgusting. It qualifies only as instant junk. That is so a person who was like, I'm not scared.
Right. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not scary.
So this is remarkable. IMDb is an 8.2 out of 10. So,
which is IMDb is entirely user
rating. So users in general, like mid B to low A.
Boom.
And some of some of the top critics, it is a 50-50 chance you'll like it.
Boo. So hey, you remember way back, and I recommend like cutting back in black and white to this. You remember way back when we were talking about some of the best shots in movies of all time? Is when Fuchs is infected. No, sorry, not Fuchs. God, there's so many white dudes in this movie. What is his name? Not Clark. I'm going to have to bring up a cast list because I cannot remember anybody's names. The bald guy with the vest.
Mm-hmm.
Palmer, Clark. And I think it is. No, Clark is the guy with the dogs, right?
I think so.
Bennings is Windows comes into the room and Bennings is getting tentacled up by the thing, and he runs out of the room, and they chase the Bennings thing out into the snow, and they burn him.
One of my
And
favorite shots.
there's this shot of like a panning shot of all of them standing around the flames. It's beautiful in the context of the movie, because outside of the context, you're just looking at some dudes with firelight on them.
Mhm.
But in the context of the movie, it sums up entirely all of that. Okay, now we understand any of us could be the thing,
Mhm.
and we cannot trust each other anymore.
Mhm.
It's so beautiful. It's so well done. But no, it's boring and the effects are bad, and I'm not scared.
Yeah, I mean, so I think obviously, like, my thing is, I think I would be on the higher end of the even the user reviews. I think it's interesting that, like, among the horror community, it seems like this movie is appreciated, and I agree with that subsection of reviews of the movie. People at large, seems like this is a niche thing, and if this isn't your thing, then we probably don't want to watch the same kind of movies. Um,
I, I I get why some people wouldn't like it, and I think to your point, it is kind of that. If you're not into horror movies, you might not like The Thing.
hmm.
Um, because one, if you get scared easily, it is scary. If you find horror boring, it is very conversation based, as I mentioned earlier. It's
Yeah.
the effects are very stunning.
But those are set pieces far in between character.
Right.
Yeah.
Those take up 10 minutes of runtime, maybe 15 minutes of runtime, would be my guess, where you see a horrible moving monster thing. But most of it is dialogue. And most of it is like, oh my gosh, who can I trust? And the answer is no one. And again, if you get creeped out easily, that's a very creepy mindset. If you don't, you might just find it boring. But I do say it's hard to deny of those creature effects, the care and the thought that goes into all of them. So, for example, I said earlier the 2011 The Thing doesn't exist. You had mentioned to me before that they did make real monsters,
Yeah.
and then they covered it all with CGI in
Because
post production.
essentially what happened is the producers were looking at the dailies of the footage of the practically created monsters, and they were like, this looks like an 80s movie.
I almost said some foul language that video platforms don't tend to like and tend to get you demonetized.
Oh, no, I think you can after something like 30 seconds to a minute if you haven't said anything.
Right. But then later in the video, if you have a sustained rant, you can get flagged for that, even though you're not actually on a sustained rant. It sucks. I know. Okay. And no human being is actually watching it. But what I was going to say is,
no, you go ahead.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
The having a real thing in your movie means that it is lit well and realistically, and we as the audience get a more visceral reaction because it's real. It's there. We can see it, and it's impacting people, which makes me scared that it could impact me. Because the whole point of watching a movie, not in all cases, but in most cases, is to put you in the shoes of the protagonist, to put you in the movie. And that's hard to do when everything is CGI. But anyway, one of the things I was going to mention in terms of like care and production value with these monsters, there's a scene where, and again, you can edit this in with all blur, which I think is really funny when you have to blur basically the entire thing. There's a scene where somebody has a heart attack and they're like, oh my gosh, he's having a heart attack. Get the defibrillator. Yeah. And they're like, clear. And they jolt him. And then they're like, oh no, clear. They jolt him. And then it's still not working, clear. And they put the paddles down and his chest opens up with teeth and the guy's arms go into the mouth and it bites his arms off. The way they achieved that effect is they found someone whose arms had been amputated below the elbows, and they made prop forearms, and they literally chomped those forearms off.
Mhm.
And guess what? It looks real because it's real.
Yeah,
Because it's really
a dude's
fake.
arms getting chomped
Yeah,
off. Like,
they're
yeah.
really being chopped off. And by the way, in the context of the movie, I guess the thing thought it was being attacked by the electrical pulses from the defibrillator, and that's
Mm.
such a cool little like, just like,
Yeah.
oh well, we're being attacked. We gotta fight back.
There's this great an old friend once sent me maybe it was a Reddit post or maybe it was something, but there's this old perspective of the thing uh breakdown online, and
Yeah,
it was fascinating, like written from its perspective. Um
I think I've read that. Either I sent it to you or you sent it to me, one or the other. And it talks about how like everyone else this thing has encountered across the universe, it's been like a joyous celebration to join with the thing.
mm.
But humans are the only ones that are fighting back, and it's like, why? I don't understand.
Yeah. Um yeah, so I think for time, I think that's gonna have to wrap up like what I have to say about the thing. I was just gonna cover what like we did your favorite horror movies. I was thinking about doing a critic critique of a couple of my favorite horror movies, so I'm just gonna say what they are. The
Okay.
remake of Evil Dead and the
Uh-oh.
original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think a double feature of these two encompasses everything that I like about the horror genre. Even though the thing is like a top five
Yeah, yeah.
movies. I just can't speak. We saw this together in theaters when it came out, and I just can't speak enough. Again, we're talking about practical effects in something.
Hmm.
Just the level of work done by this Fede Alvarez, who just did Alien Romulus,
Oh,
like it is so effective. I don't know, uncompromising is the
there's
word I would use. It's great.
there's one effect in particular that I will never forget from my entire life, and that is
The leg
the Jeep lands on her arm
arm, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and she has to saw her arm off and like wrench it out from under the vehicle. Is so
Yeah,
that sounds disgusting and horrifying. It's so good. It is one
yeah,
of the best effects I've seen in a horror movie.
yeah. There's like bone coming out because it's like ripping the flesh. Yeah, yeah. And so that's a nod to those. But here's the thing. The last time we talked, you weren't getting to stream as much. So I want to know, well, we have about like 10, 12 minutes left. What is Skittles O'Henry up to?
Skittles O'Henry has been playing through the Remedy series. Remedy is the creator of Max Payne, which I think most people are familiar with, Alan Wake, and Control. I was playing through the entire series of Remedy games, and there's some ups and downs. And honestly, Control is still probably one of my favorite games of all time.
Yep. A couple episodes ago, we did a lot on Control. And
Yeah.
then last episode, we did a lot on Alan Wake 2.
So good. Perfect. Because replaying the original Max Payne 23 years after its release, it plays really well
Cool.
when it plays. And that's
Okay.
the thing. So I had to
No, that's the
install.
thing.
Oh my God. Boom. Boom, boom. Okay. So I had to install a very dubious, shady update patch from the internet, not from Remedy, in order to get this game to run, period.
Okay.
Hang on. I will tell you exactly the error I got because I couldn't take a screenshot of it because it wasn't like real. Oh my gosh, what is it? Yeah, it is corrupt JPEG data, bad Huffman code.
Okay.
And then the game would
Yeah, I wouldn't
crash.
touch that. Yeah.
And then I was like, what? And then I couldn't get it to run. So then I installed a texture pack slash patchwork from the internet, and it
Mhm.
works great in high definition in 4K. And to be honest, I played 1, 2, and 3. 3 is one of the worst games I've ever played in my life. It was not made by Remedy, but I felt compelled to play it because I played 1 and 2. Rockstar made 3. The
Mhm.
only connection to Max Payne 1 and 2 is the actor that plays Max Payne in the first two plays him in the third one. The irony is, it's easily one of his best performances as a
Oh,
voice actor. He's incredible. Uh, the game is garbage. I had to literally.
I've played 2 and 3 only. From what I remember, yeah, the mechanics, just the actual gameplay of 3,
It's bad.
I did not feel like I was immersed in an intriguing story doing what I wanted to do. But like, yeah.
It's based on the GTA engine 3, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly, and so a lot of the controls are more associated with GTA, and like even like the bullet time, the slow mo effects seem like, well, it's a Max Payne game, we have to have them in there
Mhm.
rather than being a core part of the gameplay. A lot of people will tell you that Max Payne 2 is the. Oh, hang on. Max Payne 3, I literally had to uninstall it and reinstall it to get past a certain cutscene. Nothing I was doing was allowing me to get past a part of the game. I would get to a certain point of the cutscene, the video would freeze, the audio would continue, and you can skip a cutscene, but only if it has loaded the next part. And by the time it would freeze, it had not loaded that next part, so I couldn't skip it. So I was
Ow.
just stuck. Uh, going down, Max Payne 2 is a better story than Max Payne 1. And a lot of people will tell you 2 is the best Max Payne game. I disagree. I think 1 is still the best. The story is a little, it's simultaneously convoluted and simple, the first game's story. The second one makes it more of a traditional story where you can more easily follow what's going on. And it's the one where he has a love interest in Mona Sachs. And it's very good, don't get me wrong, but I think the first one is still the best. But it is. Have you ever played Dragon's Lair?
No.
Dragon's Lair was a
I
laser
know,
disc based.
yeah.
Well, hang on. The people out there in the rest of the world might not know it.
They might from Stranger Things.
Was it in Stranger? Oh, the second season was in the arcade,
The
right?
second season, yeah, they're playing Dragon's Lair in the arcade.
So it was a laser disc based game, and it was all animated by Don Bluth, who animated Dragon's Lair, Space Ace as games. He also did All Dogs Go to Heaven, The Secret of Nim. Was that him? I think
I don't know.
looks like a Don Bluth movie,
Hmm.
but it was laser disc based, and the gameplay was a direction will flash on the screen. You move the joystick in that direction, or you die.
Yeah.
And that's literally the whole game. Max Payne is almost that way. The difficulty in that game is mostly based on if you don't know an enemy is around the corner, you're going to die. And you just have to reload, know the enemy is there. As soon as you've killed that enemy, quick save. And then find the next one. And then keep doing that until you're dead, until you're done, not until you're dead. Despite that, still the best Max Payne game, I think. It's just so much fun jumping sideways and going into bullet time and unloading your gun. It's just so much fun. It's
So, how would you rank this amalgamated franchise of
oh,
Max
you're
Payne, Alan Wake, and Control?
oh, Control's at the top.
Okay.
Control is still the best. It's more fun, I think, than Max Payne 1. Especially once you get your abilities later in the game that lets you like literally fly around,
Mm.
shoot enemies, throw enemies, convert enemies to be allies. All of that stuff is just a blast. That then things get shaky because if you want to talk in terms of a story, Alan Wake 2 is near the top.
Okay.
But if you want to talk about just having fun, the first Max Payne is near the top. Alan Wake 1 is gameplay wise one of the most boring games I think I've ever played.
Yeah, we've talked
But
about that.
but the story is so interesting it makes you want to keep suffering through the gameplay.
Cool.
The second one does better, but the combat, I think that they took some of the oh, hang on. The combat in the second one, I think they got some criticisms from the first one and they tried to shake things up and it's not good, the
Okay, good.
combat in Alan Wake 2. However, how could I forget? I also played the best Alan Wake game. I'm going to catch some heat for this. I also played the best Alan Wake game, Alan Wake's American Nightmare. He's wearing a flannel shirt and going
Okay.
around the Arizona countryside. It was like $20 when it came out, and it uses the original Alan Wake's engine in favor of a much more combat focused, very short experience, and it's a lot of fun.
Cool.
This is what the first one should have been. It's 3 areas repeated 3 times.
Okay.
Mr. Scratch sends you back in time to the start of the loop every time you beat him because you don't quite beat him and you have to change things a little bit by bit as you write the story. And it's
Majora's
very
Mask
interesting.
style.
Kinda, yeah. Much
Uh,
shorter, which, by the way, I didn't play Majora's Mask until I was an adult. In my top 3 Zelda games.
absolutely.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for asking. I need to finish Alan Wake 2. The Alan Wake 2 DLC, spoiler, does in fact connect to Control in a big way. Have you played Control yet or no?
No.
You meet the main character's brother through the course of Control, and he's been infected by the hiss. You meet him in Alan Wake 2's most recent DLC as another
Nice.
character, Estevez. Estevez runs into him after getting tossed into another dimension, maybe.
Mm.
It's hard to explain. And he's like, all his hair is grown out and he's grown a beard. And he's like, oh man, I haven't seen another person in a long time. And he's not all weird and hissified. He's like, he's been alone for a long time. And I guess maybe he's found a way to live with the hiss, but not have it run his personality. Because he'll say things like, not now, not now, not now. Like maybe he's still fighting with it. But then he'll be like, yeah, I miss everybody. I miss my sister. Also, things are going to get real bad. Anyway, see you later. And then like push, oh, almost said a weird thing. Force pushes you out of the room. And there's like almost like a little mini trailer for Control 2, where like the streets of New York have been overrun by the mold and the hiss. So it looks like maybe it has to do with like stars aligning and that old trope. I loved playing as. Oh, I said that it kind of had a minor connection to Control. I forgot that the entire point of the DLC is that you're visiting a Federal Bureau of Control facility as Federal Bureau of Control agent Kieran Estevez. Forgot that the whole thing is Control. The only difference, of course, is you don't have superpowers. You're just basically an FBI agent, but you work for the FBC instead of the FBI.
Okay.
And it's very different. You get to see the perspective. In Control, there's these safe rooms in the oldest house, and they look relatively small, kind of like a dorm room. Because like the camera is pulled way back, so you can see all the actions you can take because you're basically a superhero. Those same rooms are in this DLC, but because you're just a regular human being, the rooms are much bigger. Like they are safe rooms for multiple people. The blocks you can move around to provide energy to things and control look like they're maybe this big. In Alan Wake, they're like this big because you have to move them by hand and not by floating them around using the force. It's just a lot of interesting perspective changes.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know what's next for Skittles O'Henry after that. Probably the Dark Souls series,
Oh.
which I talk about how much I'm a fan of them. I'm a fan of Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne. I haven't actually, and Elden Ring. I have not actually played Dark Souls 1, 2, Demon Souls, or Sekiro. And so I will probably play through all of those on stream and do very
So
poorly at them.
that is something for people to look forward to. If you haven't watched Will stream, he's fantastic. If
Oh
you
shucks.
appreciate any of the uh candor, what's the word? Just
Banter? I don't know.
I don't know. Like, but I feel like you are very confident and still in your personality, and you bring uh
Authenticity.
yeah, you just bring yourself in a really positive way to playing through the games and things like that from what I've seen. And so I just think it's worth hyping up, and I just hope you have a higher viewership.
Oh,
Um
thanks.
yeah, so that is gonna call it for today. So go watch Skittles O'Henry and stick around here because I might, thanks to CapCut, be able to do more videos real soon because I finally learned how to use Dropbox and I'm only
Hey.
33 years old.